Welcome to John Martin Talks, where we battle ignorance and apathy daily. The growing ignorance of just how special this experiment we call the United States of America is, and the apathy that we can't or won't do anything and everything to save her. Well, ladies and gentlemen, as I've been telling you all week, I've been talking to algorithm. If you want to help the show, the best thing you can do is to like it as quickly as possible, share it as far and wide as you possibly can, make comment. I'd love to have you make comments. And if you feel up to it, put the video in your favorites box. That will help us get out there quick. So we appreciate that. We got a great show for you today. Good news, ladies and gentlemen. If you're waiting for the weekend, it has finally arrived. And yes, I am going to dart out of these studios and head to the fishing grounds as soon as the show is over. But we got a great one for you today. Basically, the theme of today's show is my political goal. I've told you my political goal is to stop the progressive takeover of this great nation. And I don't care if you're running for outhouse, White House, Park Avenue, Park Bench, somewhere in between, appointed, elected. I'm going to judge you based on whether or not you can help me stop the political takeover of this great nation. And the stories we have for you today are really all about that, the consequences, what we're up against, because the progressives are literally taking over our country. And we'll talk about the first story out the gate. Progressives taking over and the establishment of the Democratic Party is being shown the door, given the boot. And I'll tell you what has happened in New York in just a moment. Buffalo, New York, that is. Connecticut, man. Connecticut is going to pot. I feel sorry for you folks up there in Connecticut. Now, I'll tell you more about this in a second. I'm not a big anti-pot guy, legalization and all that. I'll explain my position in just a minute. But the reason stated for why Connecticut is going to legalize pot smoking is absolutely ridiculous. And depending on who you are, I think it's quite offensive, and you'll understand in just a moment. And then if we have enough time, we're going to update you on a very scary story, because Taiwan is actually preparing for potential war with China. They're always under the gun and under the threat, literally and figuratively there. But things are beginning to heat up, and we'll talk about that. But before we go any further, we always have to talk about our sponsors, because without our sponsors and linking you up with them, we don't have a show. Top of that list, BDU, Big Daddy Unlimited. Where you hook up with them is look above the video no matter when or where you're watching it. Click on the link to Big Daddy Unlimited, follow directions, and you will get factory direct pricing on guns, ammunition, even swag, but tactical gear, survival gear, protective wear, anything you can possibly imagine. Over 100,000 items, Second Amendment related, including guns and ammunition. And people are always asking me, well, how do I see the price savings? Well, I got great news for you on that front. We have a show now that airs across John Martin Talks Network, our Facebook network, at 10 o'clock Eastern Time live, and also across another one of our Facebook channels, Excluded. You spell it with an X, big Excluded. You will see a program 10 o'clock Eastern called Denny's Deals, where Denny will take a product, one of the items, a gun for instance, from Big Daddy Unlimited, and he'll show you the manufacturer's suggested retail price, he'll show you the average internet price, and he will show you the BDU savings price if you become a member, and you will not believe the savings. They cannot be beat. He will also demonstrate and talk about the particular item. You can't go wrong checking out Denny's Deals before our show airs every day, Monday through Friday. Recoil TV, they're all Second Amendment related as well. We're partnered with them. They produce high quality, high production videos demonstrating the latest Second Amendment type stuff. They have their own YouTube channel. Of course, as you probably know, we have our own as well. John Martin Talks, spell it all the way out. Good morning, YouTubers. Glad to have you here. Please subscribe, share, like what we're doing there. Give us a lot of views on YouTube. They're inching up. We need your help. But our show is archived on a daily basis on Recoil TV's YouTube channel, a channel within a channel, and we greatly appreciate that. All right, let's get into the meat and potatoes of the show. This first story comes to you via the Daily News out of New York City, but it's talking about the happenings in Buffalo, New York. Listen to this. We're coming for all the damn seats. Now, that's not mine. That's what the new potential mayor is saying. Socialist India Walton defeats four-term Buffalo mayor in historic upset election. She defeated a four-term incumbent Democrat mayor in a primary. Now, there is a Republican running as well, but a Republican has not been the mayor in Buffalo since, I think, 1965, but it may be coming. India Walton, a political newcomer without any previous government experience, remind you of someone? It should, and we'll tell you more about that in a minute, declared victory Wednesday after it became clear that Mayor Byron Brown could not chip away at her 1,507 ballot lead. I like how they say ballot, not votes, but ballots, because Democrats count ballots, not necessarily votes. But there's the incumbent mayor right now. And so, he looks, I don't know. I don't know anything about the dude, but this newcomer has taken hold and whipped this dude. And she is an avowed Marxist, and I'll tell you more about that in a minute. But all I can say is if she actually wins, it's goodbye Buffalo, man. Hate to see you go. It sounds like a song because you guys are in trouble. But the new winner of the Democratic primary, Miss Walton, said this. She said, there are so many people, and this is why it's going to remind you of someone. There are so many people who made this victory possible, but I have to give special shout out to NYWFP, the entire Working Families Party. Do you know anything about that party? We've done shows on them in the past. She said, with no support from the Buffalo Democratic establishment, we turned to the WFP, and they delivered. The WFP, the Working Families Party. You know what? Who else they gave us? Yes, they gave us Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, because they were the wind behind her sails right there. And you know what she has done for us. So, this Miss Walton is riding the coattails of the Workers' Family Party. Doesn't that just sound communist? I'm sorry. And I'm not necessarily just knocking them for the name, but when you Workers' Families Party, just sounds like something out of, the 1930s or 40s Russia, man, to me. It just does. And I think I'm not far off. Brown, a former chairman of this is the incumbent mayor. Brown, a former chairman of the state Democratic Party, think about that, chairman of the state Democratic Party, and a close ally of Governor Cuomo, did not immediately concede. So he's only down by 1,507 votes. Well, that begs a question. Billy Bob here asked me, if you haven't met my psychic sidekick, this is Billy Bob Bass. He's got a Twitter handle, by the way. It's at Billy Bob Bass 1, and mine is at John Martin Talks. We are determined to stay in the public square. But Billy Bob asked me when we were kind of going over the notes for this show that you wonder if the Democrats in a Democratic primary where it's Dem against Dem, will they find some votes? Will there be like some snowbank that finally thawed out in June and some ballots appeared for Mr. Brown? Because I guarantee you this, if the Republican and this Miss Walton lady face off whenever their election is, and the Republican actually is ahead by 1,507 votes, he will lose because they will magically find some ballots just out of thin air, manna from heaven. You know I'm right about that. You ever notice that they never find that the other way around? Have you ever seen a case where a Democrat was leading a Republican and all of a sudden they found some ballots in the trunk of a car or something like that in Georgia somewhere, a floating square grouper in Florida or something like that. But I just wonder, Billy Bob's on to something here. Will this establishment Democrat, because he hasn't conceded and the absentee ballots, there are not enough left to tilt the balance, but he hadn't conceded, maybe they're going to find some ballots somewhere. Wouldn't that be something? Because they've done it before. Cuomo, who has appeared, talking about the governor, a big supporter of Mr. Brown. Cuomo, who has appeared with Brown several times in recent months, blamed the results. So it wasn't the fact that he's a friend of him. Blamed the results on low turnout and the 16-year incumbent's lackluster campaign performance. So blame it on something. That's one thing about Democrats. It is never, ever their fault, whether you're Lori Lightfoot and your city's going to hell in a handbasket. And one thing we know for sure, it's not your fault. Like I said on the show yesterday, it's Indiana's fault. Indiana's fault. If you didn't see our show yesterday, I think it was pretty comical. You got to check it out because there's a couple of videos of Biden in there you just don't want to miss. But basically, Biden said that rogue sellers of rural guns are flooding into our cities. You know, it's just absolutely insane. And by the way, if you want to see a place where our show is archived as well, check out America's Voice News, AVN, America's Voice News. They are a great alternative to the mainstream media. You can find them on Roku, Fire Stick, Apple TV, Channel 219, Dish Network, and the Pluto channel. You can get free apps on your Android or your iPhone. Our show is archived there on a daily basis. So, for instance, if you have Roku, it's free. Go to America's Voice News, check out the shows tab. We don't have a live show on there right now. Petition them and tell them we need to. But our show is up there on a daily basis in like 16-minute segments for your viewing pleasure. But it's just absolutely crazy. But Cuomo, here's what he said. He's blaming, because like I said, one thing about the Democrats, they take no responsibility for anything, man, anything. And Cuomo is no different. It's not his fault his buddy lost. He said this. He decided, talking about the Mr. Brown, the incumbent mayor, he decided basically his campaign strategy, as I understand it, was basically to avoid engaging in a campaign. So a campaign without campaign. Kind of like, well, Joe Biden won the dadgum presidency that way, right? Tell me when Joe Biden campaigned. He won the dadgum presidency. At least he got the most ballots. And it does me no joy to say this, but Biden is in the Oval Office. God help us. Of course, Kamala is, right as we're speaking today, supposedly visiting El Paso, Texas. We'll bring you the story about how she does down, what kind of shopping deals she gets maybe on Monday. But he says that this guy did not run a campaign. As I said, Biden's president. He didn't run a campaign. And he said, Cuomo said, and then you had a very low turnout. We know that combination, we've seen it before. That doesn't work. We've seen that movie before. So the fact, sir, that you were supporting this guy probably didn't hurt him at all, right? I mean, you remember that Cuomo is the guy that killed your mom in the nursing home. This was actually posted on a bridge out there. Cuomo, who is like writing a book on your dime and everything else. Yeah, Cuomo the kisser, he'd probably be president one day. He's kissed his way like Biden. Yeah, this dude, his going all out for Brown had no impact on him whatsoever, right? One way or another. But Walton, this is the lady that beat the incumbent mayor, the Workers' Family Party. It sounds like a communist to me, I'm just saying. Walton, who identifies as a socialist and harshly criticized Brown's ties to Cuomo and reliance on corporate donations during the campaign, will face a Republican challenger in November's general election. There is hope, right? Buffalo, New York, and I thought I was right about this. Buffalo's New York's second largest city hasn't had a GOP mayor since 1965. Well, I'd say it's about time. I don't know anything about this GOP mayor, but I'd be willing to bet that he's a whole lot better for Buffalo than this Walton gal will be. But I tell you all the time, what you need to do in Buffalo, if you want to stop the progressive takeover of your city, then what you need to do is follow the John Martin plan. You need to educate yourself and others. You need to motivate yourself and others. You need to activate yourself and others, which means do something. You have got to get downright, as Josie Wells was said, you got to get downright mean. Because if you give up, you neither live nor win. That's from Josie Wells, one of my favorite movies. You neither live nor win. So Buffalo, the life of your city is on the line here, in my opinion. And I'm just telling you, based on what this lady is saying, you guys have your work cut out for you. But fight back. It is not impossible. Educate, motivate, activate, and eliminate politically this person. National progressive groups touted Walton's victory as a sign that the left-wing policies are popular with Democratic voters. Wow, what an awakening that is. It's hard. Let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, it is really, really hard to beat free stuff. It's hard to beat free ice cream. But remember what the late, great Margaret Thatcher, and boy, could they use somebody like her in England right now. You know, socialism works until you run out of other people's money. It's great when you're spending everybody else's money. But here's one of these People Action Movement director. All these things, they just sound communist to me. I mean, I miss my old class, Americanism versus communism. That's what we had back today. But Brooke Adams, the politics director of the People's Action Movement, this is what he said. I don't know, I shouldn't say he. It's hard to know these names. India Walton's historic victory shows that when you campaign on progressive policies like homes guarantee, free stuff, stand with everyday people over billionaires, so all the billionaires are supporting the progressives, and run with the movement, you win. But Billy Bob, once again, he tells me that we know exactly how this ends if progressives take over your city. Well, Billy Bob, I guess I'm going to turn part of the show over to you. Show me how this ends, Billy Bob. I kind of get your point. It's a train wreck, baby. Our country is going to be, his Biden administration is a train wreck, right? But he also told us, and check out the video, as I said, we played yesterday, where Biden literally said, if you're coming for me, you better bring your F-15, baby. You need a fighter pilot. We get some of them, one of those drag reviews. We talked about that earlier with Nullis Air Force Base. Check that out. But yeah, it ends in a train wreck and the destruction of the city of Buffalo. And if we keep letting this tide roll over us, ultimately the country as a whole. Walton campaigned on promises to adopt sanctuary city rules in Buffalo. Welcome there. Beef up tenant protections, which means take away property rights, and phasing out police responses to mental health emergency calls, among other issues. So we talked about this again yesterday, where this idea, and I used to be a mental health worker. I worked at a drug and alcohol treatment center for 15 years. I have tremendous amount of respect for social workers that put themselves on the front line, dedicate themselves for very low pay in many cases to help people. I'm not criticizing people who do that. In fact, I told you, I used to be one. I actually admire people like that. But when push comes to shove, and it ain't about the love, it's about survival of a dangerous situation. Social workers aren't police officers. There's a difference. Now, sometimes police officers are required to kind of be social workers, but never should a social worker be required to be a law enforcement officer. Those are two different things. So this mental health issue, it sounds great, right? It sounds like, this person has a mental health issue and we don't need cops. Well, let me tell you what just happened here locally a couple of days ago, and is still kind of developing. We had a deputy sheriff of Alachua County here actually shoot a suspect, and the suspect ended up dying. But let me tell you the details. Apparently they didn't die of the gunshot wound. The deputies came on the scene, reported that a man was swinging, and at first they reported he had a very long knife. Turns out he had a machete. That's about as long a knife as you get, and he was swinging it around. And now maybe a social worker could have hit him upside with a head with a clipboard, and got him straightened out. But when the deputies came up there, he charged them with the machete, swinging it at the deputy, and the deputy fired. Apparently it wasn't a lethal shot because the guy turned around, ran back into his house, barricaded it in there, and refused to come out, and eventually set his own house on fire, burned it to the ground, and him in it. Now tell me where the social worker would have come in. I would say that if the social worker would have come there, you'd have had the deputies coming up, putting him or her in a body bag. I'm just saying, it doesn't make sense. Once again, I just want to make it clear. Police officers often have to be social workers. There's an element of that. There's no question. And mental health counselors. They often have to be that. But a mental health counselor should never have to be a police officer. It's not like it's flip sides of the same coin. They're slightly different job descriptions. But listen to this right here. Walton suggested her brand of politics is the way of the future and signals she intends to help elect socialist candidates for Buffalo's Common Council. In other words, their city council. I tell you, ladies and gentlemen, I have no doubt about that. One of my axioms is take progressives at their word. I mean, it's always been this way, but now with Trump derangement syndrome, the way it has been, these progressives are emboldened. You don't have to guess where they're coming from. You just have to take them at their word, no matter how outlandish what they say. Listen to what she said here. This campaign is only the beginning. This doesn't stop with me. We're coming for all the damn seats. They're coming for all of them, not just in Buffalo. She says she's going to help people around the country, like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez probably helped her. I have no doubt about her conviction. They never stop. These progressives never rest on their laurels. They don't sleep. They don't take vacations. They keep working. They double down. You give them an inch, they take 10 miles. Look at the abortion issue as an example, for instance. Safe, legal, and rare when Clinton came along. Now it's off with their heads after we make them comfortable. They take everything to the extreme, period. You cannot stop them in that sense. But I have no doubt that this lady is a lady of her word, and she is going to take this to the extreme. Here's what I tell you, ladies and gentlemen. You either need to be a leader, like I say, not everybody can be a fighter, but everybody can support those of us in the fight like me and Billy Bob here. That's why you need to go like our show immediately. If you're just now tuning into it, like it, share it, put it in, comment on it. All these things help us get past old algorithm, do deference to that. Put it in your favorites box. All these things. We need your help to spread the word, ladies and gentlemen, because they never rest, man. But I have no doubt, like I said, not everybody can be a fighter, but everybody can support those in the fight. Check out our sponsors, all that kind of stuff. But here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen. You either need to lead in trying to stop the progressive takeover. Like I told you, my only goal, stop the progressive takeover of this country. So you either need to lead, you need to follow, be a fighter, support those of us in the fight, or you can hide while you still can. You can hide while you still can. Because let me tell you, you can vote yourself, like Buffalo is maybe on the verge of doing, into socialism, but take it from the good folks in Venezuela. You always got to fight your way out. And I don't think the United States of America, let alone Buffalo, is an exception to this. But let me tell you, this is another one of my axioms. Progressives can only be defeated. They can't be reasoned with. They can't be dealt with. They can't be negotiated with. Bipartisanship always, as I told you before, means Republicans cave. They have to be defeated at the ballot box. If we don't man the political ramparts, we're going to have to man the real ones again. And that price has already been paid by the blood of patriots, even though Biden can't even say that. Check out the video from yesterday. This now, ladies and gentlemen, in our country and in Buffalo, New York, is a battle for freedom over tyranny. That's what it's all about. Make no mistake about it. Now, so we're going to move on. Just say this once again to the citizens of Buffalo. Educate yourself and others. Motivate yourself and others. Activate yourself and others. Do not let these progressives totally take over the great city of Buffalo. I'm just saying. All right, we'll keep you posted on how that goes. Got another kind of in a series here, as I said, progressivism in America. And this one here is about pot. It's about Connecticut going to pot. Now, as you know, a lot of places are decriminalizing, legalizing medical marijuana and all that kind of stuff. Florida's done the same thing. And I'll give you my opinion about all that in just a second. But let's get into the headline here. Connecticut legalizes marijuana to combat racial disparities. Now, this is a new one on me. I've heard of all kind of reasons to legalize pot, but racial disparities is not one of them. But wait till you hear what this governor has to say in just a moment. Connecticut Governor Ned Lamont, Democrat, of course, signed a bill into law Tuesday that legalizes possession of marijuana in the state and anticipates retail sales of the drug in 2022. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I told my friend, and let me just tell you, I smoked a boatload of pot. I'm not like President Clinton where I said, I didn't inhale. I inhaled, and it almost killed me. It led me, marijuana is a gateway drug. Let me just tell you, I used to be a drug counselor. I smoked my share of it. I've done a lot of different things. I'm not proud of it. I live by the grace of God. I've been clean and sober for, 33 years now. Thank you so much for everybody who's helped me. But let me just tell you why I say marijuana is a gateway drug. Because I've been involved in this stuff for a long time. And maybe there's someone out there that doesn't fit this description. But I have yet to meet someone in all my experience that never smoked pot, cigarettes for that matter, or drink alcohol, woke up one day and say, I've never tried marijuana. I've never even drank alcohol, but today'd be a great day to mainline some heroin. It don't work that way. Or today, I never smoked any pot, but crack sounds pretty good. It just doesn't work that way. So marijuana, and I'm not saying that everyone who smokes pot goes to harder drugs. I've just never met anyone who went to harder drugs that didn't start somewhere else. I'm just saying, man, ban me if you want or whatever. Fact check me, I suppose. Go out there and try some crack on your own without ever smoking. See how it works out. But I've always told my people when they started this kind of legalized marijuana, I said, you're barking up the wrong tree here. If you really are concerned about smoking pot, you should decriminalize it. Decriminalize it. And I've always been opposed to allowing children to do it. Even I was a child, I did it myself. But I know what I'm talking about. But decriminalize it, because I tell these marijuana guys all the time, once the government gets their hands on it, then you're going to be paying taxes and everything else, and they're not going to let mom and pop sell stuff on the street. Right now, it sounds like Connecticut is going to do that, but once they start actually making tax dollars on it, they'll change their tune. Remember what Newsom did out in California. He had troops on the border. People forget this. Early on in Trump's administration, Mr. Newsom had troops on the border down there in San Diego area. But because they legalized pot and they were making big bucks off of it, they had a bunch of people still clandestine growing it up in Northern California. And Gavin Newsom took troops from the Mexican border and put them against people who were growing pot up in California because he wanted the money. So I've been telling y'all along, government intervention is rarely a good thing. The new law allows people 21 and older to possess or use marijuana up to specified possession limit of 1.5 ounces on their person and 5 ounces in their home or their car. I don't know about that car stuff, man, so you're going to, under the influence. The law establishes penalties for use by those under 21 or possession of an amount greater than permitted by the law. Additionally, it removes most cannabis sales offenses from the state list of serious juvenile offenses. So juveniles can sell pot and they're not going to be prosecuted for it. This is actually in Cambodia, I think. But I think it kind of shows you what we're up against, man. So, the little tykes out there. But listen to this. And this is the meat and potatoes of this. This is what, it's laughable but sad. And I think, depending on who you are, offensive. It offends me. Listen to this. The bill was passed under the umbrella of social justice to combat racial disparities. So they're going to allow pot sales to combat racism and will place with a social equity council, so a new government entity, the task of how to regulate the new legal marijuana market so that it becomes an instrument for addressing racial, social, and economic justice. So if you're feeling like your race, that you need some racial, social, and economic justice, pot is your answer. If that's the answer, what the hell's the question? I mean, crazy. I'm going to play you this video from the governor of the great state of Connecticut signing the bill, and then listen to his comments about why he says this is such a great thing. Check it out. And he's a white dude, by the way. Just saying. You'll understand in a minute.
It was a really important thing to do. It's an important thing to do on a number of fronts. Number one, in terms of equity and social justice, I love the fact that This is an equity fund. It's going to give folks who otherwise sometimes don't have access to capital, the capital they need to start up their own business. Focused on the most distressed communities, those communities that were hardest hit by the war on drugs, making up for some lost time there.
Maybe it's just me, ladies and gentlemen, but that is such an idiotic speech and really offensive. Think about this. So he's saying that it's going to give, because like 50% of the licenses are going to people, I guess, of color or something to that effect when it ultimately comes out, which I don't really have an opinion about that. I told you decriminalize is the way to go. But here's the thing. He says it'll give people capital to start up their own businesses so you can sell out the trunk of your car or whatever, to help. So he's insinuating, the way I read it, tell me where I'm wrong, that black Americans in Connecticut, people of color, it'll help them, get capital to start at their business. So if you want to open up a local McDonald's franchise, the best way to do that is to start selling a few doobies around the corner. I mean, it's absolutely crazy. And to me, I'm just going to say it. I'm not politically correct. I just say what I feel and what I feel is true. And I don't specifically try to offend anybody, but I don't worry about it either because I believe the truth sometimes is offensive. But here's the way I'm reading it. And this is white privilege, dude, mighty whitey. I'm admitting all of that kind of stuff. I'm not saying I know exactly how black folks feel and all that kind of stuff. I probably got a better handle on it than most. If you watch the show, you know a little bit about my history. But this idea that, black people need capital from selling joints on the street in order to get their own business. Listen to this right here. Capital to start up your own business. So to me, what they're really saying is that black people, to kind of talk about some of the other stories in the news the last few weeks, that black people are this is what the Democrats are saying, in my opinion. Black people are too stupid to get a voter ID, period. They're just too dadgum dumb to get a voter ID. Black folks are, people of color. And they can only be successful if they're dope dealers. That black people can only be successful if they deal dope. I don't know. Tell me again, please. Tell me again, who is the racist? Who are the racists out here? Because to me, and please tell me, I could be wrong. But if you're insinuating that black people are too stupid to get a voter ID and the only way they can really get capital and live the American dream is to be a dope dealer, isn't that racist? Please help me here. Isn't it racist to assume, based on the color of a person's skin, that they can't get a voter ID and they can only be successful pushing pot? Are you not offended by that? So tell me again, who is the racist? And I've been saying this the last couple of days, but if I say it, it bears repeating. This idea of white supremacist conspiracy. Let me just say this. If there is a white supremacist conspiracy out there, they got to love this. They got to absolutely love the fact that black people are going to be in their neighborhoods selling dope to each other, staying stoned. And come on. How is that a recipe for success? Remember that old commercial where the two and their white kids smoking pot and their mom comes home and says, "Did you go out and look for a job, Johnny," or whatever? And he says, I don't know why she's you smoking that stuff? And he says something to the effect of, "I don't know why she's after me. I never did nothing smoking pot." Well, yeah, right, man. I don't know, maybe I'm just way off of here. While the law bans the smoking of marijuana in state parks, listen to this, in state parks and on Connecticut's waterways, it requires every community with a population of 50,000 or more to set aside a designated space for smoking the drug. A designated space. So it outlaws it. You can't do it in state parks and on waterways. It kind of, maybe I'm wrong here, and I'm not trying to be racist or insensitivity. Maybe it's my white privilege. But did you hear about the IKEA store in Atlanta? Actually, 'cause I guess I've never even been in one, but they serve food and they advertised it to celebrate Juneteenth, and I kid you not, that they were going to have a special menu and they were serving fried chicken and watermelon. You talk about insensitivity. It's just stupid. We're getting crazier by the day here. But maybe I'm wrong here. Tell me where I'm wrong. But it sounds to me like by exempting national or state parks and waterways, maybe they're saying they don't want it where Whitey is. Because a higher percentage of white folks attend parks and waterways. It's just a fact. It's not conspiracy. It's not race. It's just a fact. Okay? So, why would they put that in the rule? To me, it sounds like protecting Mighty Whitey. I don't know. I'm just saying. But a designated space for smoking the drug. So here's your designated space. Don't leave this. The idiocy of the Democrats and the progressives, as I tell you, they live in some kind of fantasy world that all of a sudden people are just going to, okay, I'll just hang out right here and smoke my dope. They're going to smoke it everywhere. The more they smoke it, the more it's going to be everywhere. And believe me, it will impact schools and everything else. They're decriminalizing the minors for selling pot, for God's sake. The Connecticut so there are some people who are actually sane in this. What are the Democrats always saying? Follow the science, follow the science, follow the science. Well, here's some science. The Connecticut Medical Society also strongly opposed the bill, stating it was deeply disappointed that Lamont signed it into law. That's the governor there. The group asserted that legalization of marijuana will have harmful, even devastating effects, particularly on young people. Well, there has been much scientific evidence that pot and other drugs are specifically harmful to children. Is there any wonder why? Because children are still developing. Their brains, their organs are still developing, especially their brain. And marijuana is a mood-altering drug. If it wasn't, then why the hell would you smoke it? I can tell you this, when I smoked pot, it wasn't for anything other than mood-altering, mind-altering. If it didn't alter my mind, I got rid of it. It's just absolutely crazy. But facts, so this medical society person is trying to put facts and logic. The Democrats they take leaps of, what did Biden say? We believe in truth over fact, or vice versa. I don't know, whatever. But the leaps of logic they take, that, like yesterday's show, it is Hicks in Indiana that are responsible for killing people in Chicago. You dadgum Indiana Hoosiers, man. How dare you, have the Hick to gangbanger pipeline or whatever. It's just crazy. Watch our show from yesterday. But now logic of this, so I just can't get past this. Maybe I'm wrong. Please help me. I just want to speak to Black America for just a minute. Is it not offensive for this governor, a Mighty Whitey, by the way, to say that this is the only way or the best way for Black Americans to get capital to start their own business is to peddle dope? I can't. It's just offensive to me. Maybe I'm just overstating it. Dr. Gregory Shangold, this is the guy who's the president of the Medical Society, said his organization believes there are more effective ways to counter racial disparities than legalizing marijuana. Now, he's a white dude, clearly a white supremacist. He's clearly a white supremacy alert. What is the thing? Supposedly there's all kind of stuff, all that. White supremacy alert. He's even got a white jacket on. This dude must be a white supremacist. But Black America, I got to ask you, people, are you cool with this? Is this just cool, hip, man? I don't get it, man. And then once again, tell me who the racist is. Who is the racist in this picture? It is absolutely ludicrous. All right, we're going to move on, and keeping with our theme of socialism, and as I said earlier, what that lady in Buffalo sounded like a communist to me. We're going to talk a little bit about the end result of all this. And you can ask the people who have lived through communism and socialism, actually lived through it, don't particularly condone it. This is a CNN story. Taiwan's foreign minister says we need to prepare for military conflict with China. This is about as serious as it actually gets. Actually, that's Tank Man I was going to show at the end, but that's okay. We'll come back to that. I was going to show a picture of the Taiwan is, in the military. They have their own military, by the way. Taipei, Taiwan, CNN. China's escalating military intimidation of Taiwan shows the self-governed island needs to prepare for a possible military conflict. This is scary stuff. Taiwan's foreign minister, Joseph Wu, said in an exclusive interview with CNN, Let me tell you, this is the ultimate consequence of socialism is communism and aggressiveness towards your neighbors. That's the way it always has been. I mean, you look at fascism, communism, all these isms, they always end up being aggressive towards your neighbors. His warning, they're talking about let me get his title again, Foreign Minister Joseph Wu. His warning came 1 week after the island, talking about Taiwan, reported the largest daily incursion by Chinese military planes into Taiwan's self-declared air defense authentication zone. Now, one of the things I was really hoping, of course, I was hoping for many reasons that Donald Trump would get reelected. And one of the things I was hoping he would do in a second term is to actually recognize Taiwan. They need to be recognized. And I know Biden's not going to do it because he's in the pocket of China. I mean, they're making tons of money off China. As Taiwan decision makers, listen to what Wu said. This is what the Prime Minister there said. Deputy Minister. As Taiwan decision makers, we cannot take any chances. We have to be prepared, he told CNN. When the Chinese government is saying they would not renounce the use of force and they conduct military exercises around Taiwan, we would rather believe that it is real. And I have no doubt that it's real. Wu, who has served as Minister of Foreign Affairs since 2018, was accused by Beijing in May of being a diehard separatist. In other words, a patriot. After remarks he made during a news conference that Taiwan, this is what Mr. Wu said, he said Taiwan would fight to the very last day because he knows what the consequences are of a Chinese takeover. I mean, they're gulagging their own people. What do you think they're going to do with these people? But listen to what Zhu Fengling, a spokesman for Chinese Taiwan affairs, so this is a communist, this is what he said. Stopping Taiwan independence is the necessary condition for maintaining peaceful cross-strait relations. So stopping an independent, democratically led Taiwan is at the top of their list. He said, Joseph Wu has repeatedly and arrogantly provoked Taiwan independence. How dare him? And we will take any necessary measures to severely punish such Taiwan independence diehards for life accordance with the law. Let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, freedom has never been free. We'll close the show with this. It's always been up to individuals to stand up. Mr. Wu is standing up. That picture we showed of Tank Man, you remember, this is Tiananmen Square. One person standing in front of tanks that were being sent to mow down people in Tiananmen Square. I would imagine that dude is dead by now. And I don't know what happened to a lot of the people at Tiananmen Square, disappeared. But it's always been the actions of one person willing to stand up. You willing to stand up at your local PTA or your local school board meeting. You willing to run for school board. You willing to say, we're not going to take it anymore. People will follow leaders. As I say, not everybody can be a fighter, but everybody can support those in the fight. We have some decisions to make, or we're going to end up under the gun like Taiwan. And I don't want to see that happen. I hope you've enjoyed the show as much as I've enjoyed bringing it to you. Please go directly to all our social media sites. Like I say, like them, share them, comment, put them in your favorites. That will help us boost it out far and wide. And we're building our social network all the time. We're going to stay in the public square. Please support our advertisers in the links above our show. I'll pray for your family. You pray for mine. I hope you have a glorious weekend. Let's all pray for this great nation because she needs it and deserves it more than ever. But like I say each and every day, from my heart, from my family to yours, have a blessed day.